Hey everyone, and welcome to GDoC Rewind from Game Devs of Color. We're digging into over a decade of incredible GDoCExpo talks and bringing some of our favorite conversations directly to your ears, featuring developers sharing real insight into making games, building community, navigating the industry, and so much more. This season, Surviving the Industry explores what it means to build a sustainable life and career in games, from burnout and layoffs to community care, resilience, and healing. This next talk focuses on an individual approach to sustainability. John, a senior technical designer who's worked on Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption, breaks down how working from home unexpectedly turned into crunch in disguise. He shares 5 concrete habits he built to fix it, from boundary setting to designing his own vision board. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Design Your Life, sustainably develop games from anywhere. I love what I do. I get to help make games for others to enjoy as my life's work. If you're here, I believe you love your work as well. It's passion. However, our passion can be used against us. Little by little, I was actually surprised at seeing more friends and colleagues burn out or have to go out on medical leave of absences. And I thought to myself, how could that be? Working from home, it's all good. But what I quickly realized was that the lines between where home ends and work begins and vice versa were being dangerously blurred. So I'd be doing home things like laundry or cooking and answering Slack messages and checking email, and all this kind of jumbling together. There was constant starting and stopping, and it was just kind of all rolling together where I wasn't anticipating this in my capacity. So I was actually overestimating the time I had to work, right? With all these little starts and stops. And I figured, oh yeah, that's fine. I'll make up for it late at night or over the weekend. And I was becoming the very thing Shanae was warning me about. I was trying to be a hero. Then worse yet, I wasn't telling my team that was happening. I was keeping it all bottled up inside. So I was not communicating that. And then once one person starts falling behind, the whole team gets affected. So how do we prevent from ever getting to that point? And I would offer it's by turning the same skills that we take day to day to make the small miracles that are shipping games and turn those and using them to design our lives with the intention for long-term sustainability. I've got 5 ways that I want to share with you. So a little bit about me. I've been in the industry since 2007. I made the transition from Amazon over to EA to work on their Frostbite engine as a technical designer. It's what powers some of our notable games like FIFA, Madden, Dragon Age, Star Wars Squadrons, Battlefield. So I got a few years experience under my belt, and I've seen a lot of different team dynamics and vastly different cultures. So I got a little bit of insight that I want to share with you all to help us all get to retire doing the thing we love. With this experience, though, I was not prepared for the double-edged sword of working from home. I thought with 15 years in the game, I was safe. I knew all the signs to be wary of and call out ahead of time and how to manage my manager, right? To avoid these pitfalls that keep devs from dropping out of the industry. But like I said before, I had no experience working from home, especially for this long of a period. I really thought it was a dream come true. I never thought the industry would get here. And little did I know that this constantly being connected 24/7 was a double-edged sword. I'd be out there walking my dog, spending time with my wife on the couch, and playing Hades or Miles Morales or something and get an idea and then rush down to the computer, tinker, mess with something, check something in. Oh no, a bug, because it was at night. I wasn't counting for that. Somebody hits me up, hey, you got to fix this. So things would bleed over into the late nights, sometimes even the weekends, and I was doing it to myself. It makes for really good gram pics of hashtag hustle culture. But little did I know that I was actually crunching myself. I was like, no, this is not crunch. I'm home. I'm seeing my family, seeing my loved ones, having good food. This is not crunch. But it actually was. It was just in disguise. It's important to call out and establish these firm lines in the sand of when you're going to be at work and when you're not going to be at work. And so letting people know when they can and can't hit you up. One of my favorite features in Slack is that scheduled to send later or at a specified time. Call out firmly, hey, I'm going to start work at this time for this stand up. And this is when I'm going to take my lunch. I'm a notoriously late luncher. I like my 1 p.m. lunches. And with the family at home, it was too easy to kind of work into the evening. So have a hard cutoff to say, yo, 6 p.m. dinner. I'm not missing that. You can hit me up tomorrow if you need something from me. Call those out and block those out in your calendar and stick to them. Next, calendar discipline. In this day and age of working from home all the time, it's so important. Well, actually, any interactions you have to be scheduled in advance. No longer do we have the luxury of being in the office, little water cooler moments, walking by somebody's desk. Hey, I got something I want to run by you, or let's go brainstorm in a room. Everything has to be scheduled. And because of the constant needs of life, you have to schedule that in advance. I beg, plead, and urge you. Let's avoid those impromptu meetings that tend to kind of shift schedules all crazily in every direction. Also, does everybody have to be in that meeting? Is it absolutely vital that I need to be there, or can it be recorded and then messaged out to me later? Also, with some helpful timestamps of key areas that I should be aware of. And if I'm not essential, make use of that optional field. And one of the other things I want to call out is, instead of booking hardcore 30, 60 minutes or worse, even longer meetings, let's make those 25 and 55 minutes to leave a 5-minute buffer for us to tackle the things that life kind of throws in our face, right? Hey, bio break. I want to go get a beverage or coffee, check in on a loved one, or throw the ball for my impatient dog that's been nudging at my feet. It just helps everyone out and avoids this cascading domino effect that happens when meetings run long and then everybody shows up 5 minutes late to the next meeting and meetings don't get started because they're waiting for people, right? We're trying to maximize the time we're at work so that we can maximize the time when we're out of work. Finally, the last thing I want to call out as being a producer of your life, we need each other. Let's empower each other as managers, seniors, leads, as well as juniors, associates, right? Manage up. Let everyone know we are accountable. Hey, this is in the calendar. This isn't in the calendar. I know it's idealistic, but it has to start somewhere. Have a buddy that you guys start and finish at around the same time, check in on each other, right? When we were in the office, it was easy. I used to hang out late. I would see somebody hanging out late. I'd drop by their desk. I'd ask them, hey, what are you working on? Can I help you with anything? Hey, let's go out. Let's enjoy some of the sunlight. We'll tackle this tomorrow, right? Our projects never really end until shipping. So once you establish this firm foundation as a producer, let's talk about actual scheduling. Phil Spencer came through a virtual town hall IDA. One of the things he told me, or told us, said, when you get a schedule from someone, they're more likely to stick to it rather than if you impose a schedule onto someone. And I thought to myself, word up. I've been in this industry for a while, and 10 to 4 core hours sounded like a good thing. But in this new age, I'm going to push back and say, forget that. Those are not a one size fits all anymore. Let's be creative with our time. This may need a little bit of self-assessment. I invite you to bring a journal, track how you're doing during the day, how you're feeling, how's your energy, right? Are you someone who thrives being in the office around the hustle and bustle of creative people? Or are you someone that works better in the confines of your house? Are you sharper in the morning? Are you kind of more energetic late at night? Do you like starting your day later? Do you like being out in nature? Are you a lark or are you a night owl? In my 20s, I was definitely a night owl. Now in my mid 30s, I tend to like to start my day earlier and I hit my stride in the middle of the day. Especially now as we're scattered and all remote, international teams put a completely different demand on our time. I find that it works best for me to start my day 7 to 11, take a long break, 12, maybe to 2 or 3, have lunch, take a nap, go some exercise, play with the dog, cook some things, and then come back and hit it hard for the second part of the day. There's many different ways to cut up our 8-hour plus or minus workday. And I invite you all to be creative and find the slot that works best for your team's needs to also honor when you're at your sharpest. So after defining the best time for you to work, Now, let's talk about the actual work you're doing. You may have heard or felt the sensation of like, yo, I'm in the zone, and just time flies by. And so that feeling is actually called being in flow. Flow is the mental state where you're completely immersed in an activity. You lose all track of time and you're kind of firing on all pistons. You're doing your absolute best work. It's been mapped traditionally along these two axes of difficulty, how hard or challenging is something, how much research or time do you have to spend figuring it out, and your use of skill, right? Are you using your superpowers to their fullest? And flow ends up being the sweet spot right in the middle of that. So on one end, something is not too difficult and it's right in your wheelhouse. You can be bored, easily distracted, take longer than you need to. Or on the other end, super challenging and not familiar to you. It can be like Demon Souls or Returnal hard and end up inducing anxiety. There's a few different models that have arisen after the fact. We introduce apathy, right? Like not challenging, super easy, super easily to be distracted, right? For some of you, that may be writing documentation. And then one of the models, as we like to do, as we've gotten more emotionally intelligent, right? Just to understand some of our other sensations and emotions as we're working our way through the spectrum, the consistency of flow, where it's the thing that is challenging, exciting, and uses your skills to the best of your ability, right? Like you're excited. That's what flow feels like. Now, once you've optimized the way you're working, this is where I get to talk about the most important part of the talk. 768 million days of PTO were lost in the US, let me call out, in 2019 pre-pandemic. This is money literally being burned. This is money in your bank in exchange for your time, and people are not taking it. And this is vital to being the sharpest, best teammate that you can be. To work hard, you have to take time off just as hard to recharge and bring your best self to work. Time is our most precious commodity, time given to you. And people are saying, nah, I'm good. On the other side, Anne Helen Peterson's book, Can't Even, How Millennials Became the Burnt Out Generation, she has some great takeaways in there. One in particular is the fact that when we're not at work, we're still doing activities that end up emotionally draining us when we should be recharging. Things like heads down in really emotionally fatiguing news, like climate change issues, violence against women and other marginalized people, refugee crises, comparing our lives to all other things. It happens to me often. I'm not saying to keep your head in the sand. I'm just saying to compartmentalize that stuff, right? So that when you're actually disconnecting from work, you're refueling yourself. Unlike our phones, where you got to charge them by plugging them in, I offer to really recharge ourselves, our creative energy, our mental stamina, everything that makes us efficient and powerful and brings us to work. You got to unplug, man. You got to step away from these machines. You got to put these screens down. And there's a spectrum, right? Minutes to hours, your short-term breaks throughout the day. And on the other side, your days and weeks as you really go away and venture out somewhere else. Get out in nature, take a nap, things like this in the minutes and hours that you have when you're stepping away. On the other end of that is your big PTO chunks. Communicate those to your manager, to your team, as far in the future, as far in advance as you can. And make sure that you all protect this time. Everybody's aware and that you have contingencies in place. Hey, these are documents that you can look at with people to contact about the thing that I'm working on, when I'll be back, and how you can reach out to someone to help step you through anything that you may have been depending on me on. And encourage each other to take that time off. Do not add to that statistic of just time being wasted, right? I know we're all eager to be super efficient and always on, but I encourage you to do the exercise of stepping away from that screen as well and see the difference that it may bring for you in your long-term sustainability. So with all of this in place, I come to the final thing I have to share with you. And it's what ties all of this together. It's defining your North Star and identifying your why. A vision board is cut very much from the same cloth. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. I've identified a template that I use to lay out my vision board. So we got people, people you admire, people you look up to, they love, care for, want to remember, goals, things that you want to achieve, things that you want to become, things that you want to complete, places and destinations, places to visit, places to move to, places to work at or from, places that you want to retire at. What does your retirement look like? What does your life look like 1 year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What's in your portfolio, both financial and creative? Products, right? We make games. What titles or franchises or IPs do you want to work on? What do you want to be credited for? I'll be transparent with you, GDoC. I'll share my vision for things that I aspire towards or mean a lot to me one day, right? I'd love to live in a place that has ocean view and a look of nature and gets a lot of natural light. Being a principal tech designer or a tech design director, I have aspirations to start a family of my own someday. I have what I hope to grow for my podcast. I'm very much about my activity and athleticness. Maybe one day I make it to American Ninja Warrior. And so all that is what I wrap up to say. Wear that creative director hat. Define the vision and the why for the things you want to build or aspire to someday. And make sure that all the things you're doing and the way you're spending your time at work and out of work lead you to that place. To recap what we've talked about, turn those dev skills onto your life. Play that producer where you establish firm, clear boundaries with your team. Keep that better meeting etiquette. Block out those times. Leave those 5-minute gaps at the end and be champions for one another, right? Let's reaffirm and remind people and hold them accountable for the things they say they're going to do. Not just talk about it, but be about it. We're creatives. Let's redefine what the core hours are for our teams and our individual needs. Again, to be operating at our most efficient at the time of day that makes the most sense for us and our team. With all of that identified, make sure that you're talking with your managing your team to get the right work that allows you to be in that flow state and protect those times, right? It's very easy to be distracted from being in flow, and then it takes a long time to ramp back into it. Remember what I said, the most important thing is all those days being wasted. Please, please, please disconnect daily, monthly, even take a gap year if you're so lucky. And remember, define your North Star, wear that creative director hat. We all have it in us. Build out a vision board. Thank you, GDoC. You all rock. Feel free to connect with me on my Linktree/JKingpin. I invite you to go check out my podcast, How to Play Area. And I'll leave with one thing. There are no continues in this game called life. And stay dangerous, fellow game devs. Gracias, merci beaucoup. Thank you. I'm out of here.
That was John Diaz on turning the same skills we use to ship games into the skills we use to build a sustainable life: boundaries, flow, and knowing your own why. John is now a senior technical designer at Epic Games and produces his own podcast, Out of Play Area. You've been listening to GDoC Rewind from Game Devs of Color. If you enjoyed this episode, you can discover more talks, resources, and upcoming events on our website, gamedevsofcolor.org. Share the episode and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.